Somebody's here. Hello? Oh, there is somebody there. Okay, let me turn it on then. Hang on. Can you hear us?
No, if I go, I'll go.
Do you hear us now?
Do.
Good. Jay with you? Got my drink. So, I have a little bit of stuff to do first before we get into our list, just to give a little context for it. A lot of the stuff we're doing right now is compliments of Bhagwan, by the way. She's my current inspiration. Let me ask you a question, or I guess maybe two questions. Why does AA work? And why do people need to keep going to meetings?
Supposed to answer that?
Uh-huh.
Because it's the, well, what you told me is the only place on the planet where you go to not drink today, the consciousness is you don't drink today.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep going back to sustain that consciousness.
Okay. That's essentially it, yeah. Alcoholics or any other 12-step program. An alcoholic believes he's addicted to alcohol. The person believes they're addicted to food or to cocaine or to whatever. And that belief means that they believe that alcohol or cocaine or food or whatever have power over them, right? So it's a belief in a power other than God, which is really the kind of work that we're talking about in this work, which is why I bring it up. Alcoholics believe that something other than God has a power over them, and so it does, okay? Now notice the interesting thing that has to happen. First of all, before people get sober, they usually have a moment of clarity, which is that moment in which some hint of God consciousness actually comes into them, okay? And then they have to admit that they're powerless over alcohol, right? They have to give up their power first in order to discover that alcohol has no power over them when it's confronted, when it's in a higher power, when there's a higher power present. Do you see how that works? And do you see how it works in connection with what we're saying? There's no God in the human world except where there's a higher consciousness there, okay? And AA knows that. I mean, they don't know it consciously. They would never say what's going on there this way. But you see that they know that. I mean, they're aware of that, and that's why it's been working for 70 years or however long. God comes into the picture. The higher power comes into the picture in the moment of clarity. Then they come in and struggle to admit that they're powerless over alcohol, which they've demonstrated for umpteen years. Then, to the extent that they're receptive, by being in the meeting, they get lifted out of that particular hypnosis. They get lifted in an AA meeting out of the hypnosis that AA has power, that alcohol has power over them. And in food meetings, they get lifted out of the hypnosis that food has power over them, or cocaine, or what have you, okay? They get lifted out of that hypnosis. And so we give up any claim that we have power, and then we can get lifted to out of our hypnosis that alcohol has power over us because of the presence of a higher power in the meeting, which is in fact the group consciousness, which is God consciousness, which is the higher power. So, and the reason that people have to keep going to AA meetings is because they need to keep going to that consciousness, because the world mind is continually out there trying to tell them that alcohol does have power. And they also have their body, their kid, has a history of finding the power in alcohol or food, i.e. it works. I mean, the reason we're alcoholics and drug addicts and food addicts is that it works. It makes us feel better in the moment. It did. So we have experiential information that it has power. Now that's hypnosis. That too is hypnosis. It doesn't really have power, but just like we have experiential hypnosis that flu has power. Those of us who have caught flu have experienced that flu has power, even though when we come to this level of work we realize that it doesn't, and that we're just hypnotized. Similarly, we're just hypnotized about alcohol. And we need the meetings to lift us out of them, lift us out of that hypnosis. And what it is it's a very specific lifting out of a particular hypnosis, which is why originally they wanted to keep AA meetings separate from drug meetings, because the hypnosis is very particular, and apparently they thought it was stronger than when focused, although that doesn't seem to be the case now that we all have so many dually addicted people. So that's sort of what that structure is all about. The point is that the nature of 12-step programs is hypnotization. Okay? Now, the reason I brought that up for this group is that we all have another addiction. We're all addicted to our little eyes. We're addicted to our human body minds. We're addicted to being human. We're human being-aholics. Okay? And we are addicted. We keep going back. We can't give it up. We can't drop it. And what are we addicted to as human beings? What are we addicted to? What's the nature of that addiction? Why do we cling to our humanhood? Yeah.
It's like drama.
That's one.
Survival of the ego.
Survival of the ego. But that's what being addicted to it means, but we're not addicted to humanhood so that our ego can survive. Our ego survives because we're addicted to humanhood, perhaps, but what are we addicted to?
Staying earthbound?
Well, why would we be addicted to staying earthbound? Why do we want
We're human, so that's what we know.
Why do we want to stay earthbound?
It's a human construction.
Their desires,
Desires. Now we're getting close.
preferences,
Preferences.
emotions,
Emotions. Fear, as somebody said.
pleasure,
Pleasure.
attachments,
Security.
conditioning,
What we're addicted to is all the stuff we're attached to, right? Attachments, in a word, is the nice general word that covers all of the things we've said. All those answers were correct. We're addicted to our human attachments, okay? Now, Barbara's list of things we love things we hate, things we fear, and things we desire are the lists of all our attachments. Okay? So that's why we've started this work now of doing, and we're going to go through the 4 lists, and the homework for tonight was to do the love list. The name of the game is to take a look at our addiction and see what it is we're truly addicted to, and find out if it's serving us, and see why we're clinging to it, and see if we can, because the way we drop our addictions really is to see the truth about them. And the other parallel is that the reason we do that 15-minute meditation here before the workshop starts is to lift us above the hypnosis, okay? Just like an AA meeting. This meeting is serving us in exactly the same way that an AA meeting is serving an alcoholic. It lifts us above the hypnosis, the meditation, to the extent that we're receptive. And some people come into AA and don't get it because they're not yet receptive to that. They can't be lifted yet. But we all can be lifted, and that's why we come in here. And that's also why we need to keep coming back into this community, because it takes all of us to lift us above the hypnosis of the addiction to humanhood, to human being-aholism. And human-aholic? Human-aholism? Human-aholism? Human-ahol. Better than alcoholism. Yeah. Anyway, and that's why we need to keep coming back into the community, even though we're done with the script work, and even though we're done with the kid work. We need to just. The point is, the reason we need to keep coming back and doing this stuff, and it doesn't matter whether you come to the script work, or if you come to the kid work, or you come here, or you come to the meditations 3 nights a week. The point is that we need to come regularly and get lifted above the humanism, the hypnotism, just like people need to keep going to our 12-step programs to keep lifted above that particular hypnotism. This is a much more general lifting above the hypnotism, but what we want to do is get lifted high enough that we can see what's going on in our lives and what's serving us. A person can go to a AA meeting and not say a word, ever, and be lifted out of their hypnotism. You know? I didn't say anything for the first 6 months that I was there. I refused to talk for 6 months, and was sober for those 6 months. So we don't need to participate even, but we need to be in the consciousness. So that's a concrete demonstration of the reason that I list the 3 ways of raising your consciousness, and I keep saying that one is hanging out in the community, And this is why I just want to get this clear, and also to lay the groundwork for why we're going through why we're starting through those lists right now. Okay? Any questions about that, or comments, or realizations, or breakthroughs, or?
I would just say, when we did our meditation tonight,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it just seemed like a lot more quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But the last plane to the moon that we did was like a book study, and there seemed to be a lot more people because we were just getting like the facts of the discussion. But this was where we actually got work, an assignment that people came back. Some people didn't show up. But it seems that it's just a deeper level this time tonight.
Could be.
It's interesting.
Could be. I have no idea what this workshop's going to look like, by the way. We're all winging it. I don't have any advanced knowledge about what's going on, but it looks like we're going to be doing much more practical work. And many of the people traditionally have always loved to listen to high-sounding books about lofty spiritual principles, or go listen to Tony Kitchell talk for an hour and get lifted, and you can get high and enjoy it and do nothing, and that doesn't typically lead to enlightenment. But, what we're starting now for those who want to is, and we're not starting because it's done the script and kid work, which is a great deal of part of it, but we're looking at, we're attacking now specifically our human alcoholism. Yeah.
Well, yes, in fact, as you were speaking about everything in our humanhood being an attachment, and then I wasn't here last week, but so I didn't make a list, but I was thinking in my mind, because you talked about things you love, and attachments are addictions, so I'm thinking about my children, and I'm thinking for a second, but I'm not willing to give that up. I've got love for my children, it's just such a good thing. And then I just had this flash that I felt this same way about alcohol. I mean, I felt that exact same strength about, so it just, the only reason I'm sharing that is now I'm a little bit more open to taking a look at that. Because I guess somewhere in my mind I saw this idea for good and bad addictions.
I'll give you we'll go into that. Let's start that work now. Let's go into the list of love things. And I will tell you that you don't have to give up anything you love. Okay? Because I'm using the word love in the sense of love flowing through you, out of you, you being a conduit for love. Okay? Anything you love in that way, you don't have to give up, because that's not clinging you to humanhood. That's not your human being that's doing the loving. Our question for tonight is, can a human being love anything? Can a human being love anything? Okay?
Okay, I mean, I've seen that. Maybe it just took me one step further to see what attachments, other attachments are. Maybe because it's very easy to think something is good or good for me, but I thought bad about things that were not good for me.
Crack.
Yeah. You're in the middle of it, it's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, it was just an insight.
Crack like a devil.
Yeah. Drink like a lady.
Right on the par.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, because I needed that. It was an interesting insight.
So let's, if you haven't done your list, so I think about doing it, I don't want anybody to read their whole list, but sort of think about what your top three are, and whoever wants to take a look at them and work on them, why, let's do that. Why don't we just do one person at a time and look at your top three and talk about them a little bit, and maybe we give everybody the sense of how to do this work, because we're all going to want to do what we do for the next 40 minutes here on each item on our list and see what we see. So who wants to start?
No,
Jump in.
you want to hear just like the top?
Give me the top 1, 3, let's say.
Okay, I'll say security, respect, and pleasure.
Okay, now let's. Have you ever had security?
I don't think so, no.
So the first thing on your list that you love is something you've never had. Yeah.
Take it as the idea.
Oh yeah.
The illusion.
So what was the second one?
Respect is what I put there.
Have you had respect? I mean, and we're talking about you feeling like you had respect. I'm not talking about whether you really have respect for them.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Yeah, ever. I mean, I suppose yes, probably. I mean.
What was the third one?
I think so. Well, I have like comfort and pleasure is pretty close. I'll say pleasure.
Okay. Momentary
Yeah,
pleasure.
but yeah, I definitely had pleasure.
Momentary pleasure or long-term pleasure?
Well, I mean, certainly momentary pleasure, you know.
Over a half an hour.
I'm not Superman.
I'm not talking about sex necessarily.
I'm 45 years old.
We're believing you.
My question is, are any of these things you love, or are these fantasies?
You know, if you talk about pleasure, I don't think that's a fantasy. I mean, I can go out body surfing for more than a half hour, and it's really pleasurable. And it really is pleasure.
Good. All right, I trust that. I'll trust that one. If you're doing something physical that requires effort on your part, and you're enjoying it, that's. Remember, your God script includes rest, nutrition, and exercise. Okay.
Yeah, and well, Edie is on here and pops up really, you know, she's in a different category than like television.
She'll be bolstered to hear that.
Well, what I mean is, though, I mean, there are things on here that are just, that I really do like an awful lot, and then there are also things that are just sort of like, I mean, or even compared to like body surfing or sunset or something, I mean, she's really like a delight in my life. And again and again and again, I mean, for more than a half hour.
And I trust that's what loving kids do. Now let me ask you another question so we can focus in, because some people love kids and some people don't love kids, even though they have them and act loving towards them. How do you know if you love something? How can you tell if you love something?
It's, for me, I'm going to try to be specific. It's not based on anything they do or give me. I'm thinking about my kids. I mean, I truly understand the word unconditional with them. It's not based on anything I get back.
Right. That's part of it. But there are an awful lot of things that don't give you anything back that you don't love.
Okay.
You don't love NASA.
How do you? Oh, no.
NASA doesn't give you anything back. That's not a sufficient criteria. That's important.
Something that you have a very high willingness to give yourself to.
Bingo. Would you consider that the primary test for the extent of your love is the extent to which you serve it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now you can take a look at Edie and see whether you're serving her. If you're trying to get something from it, I won't buy it as love. I'll buy it as wages earned. Okay? It's a job.
What did you say?
I said if you're trying to get something from it, then I will accept it as your job and it's wages earned and have nothing to do with love.
There's a commercial in the 80s for that perfume called Obsession. And they said between love and insanity, there's obsession. And when I fall in love with a woman, oh my gosh, it's like right that.
Yeah.
So
When we fall in love, when we really fall in love, what is that characterized by? What does it feel like? What do you mean? Your first guy, your first girl, what did that feel like? Remember that? You're willing to do anything for them, just to be recognized, right? I mean, you want to crawl inside their skin. You want to give them so much, you know? It's a total surrender and a total willingness to serve is what that feeling was. So it's service is the question. So I think the three questions that we need to ask on each of the things on our list is, did I serve it? Did I ever really have it? Or is it just a fantasy? And was there any profit in it for me? Or was my profit or my gain?
Okay, so can I ask a question about that?
Why don't you do your list? Why don't you do your list?
Are you done, Rob? You had your 15 minutes of fame? Okay.
Well, real quick, it says, did I serve it? Did I really have it?
Was there profit or gain?
Or what was my profit in it? Did it profit me?
Okay, my first one's is the love I have for my two children. And I mean, I have probably some close roots like Rob. My second one is teaching.
And I do trust that you serve both of those. Yeah, I expected those both to be on your list, and I know you well enough to know that you really serve both of those.
They feel like hot strips. They feel like yeah, there's...
Yeah, that's what you're here to do, for sure.
And my third one, you know, I started thinking about third ones, and I can name things that I love to do. But I'll say, I mean, I love reading more than almost anything that I do outside of, yeah. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like it falls in the same category as the other two.
I mean, you enjoy reading.
Okay. So I guess I'm going to say my sobriety, my spiritual practice is right up there. And I think I don't know. I just think so, very fuzzy. It seems, I mean, I know maybe I can only come up with really two that feel so from the heart space.
Well, see, those are things that you truly love. But,
Okay.
But what are the things that you thought you loved, or think you love, or keep, or are attached to? And we're not talking about desires now. I'm loved. What are going to make that? This is why we do the list first, and then we go through this thing.
I love painting.
But that's a gift. That's your contact with cosmic consciousness. Maybe you've pretty well cleared out the trash on our love list, you know.
Yeah, it feels that way. Because I could say things like, I mean, I loved when he was saying the thing about TV and media. I mean, I could say yoga and reading, but they're not love. I enjoy
those.
So I'll just, if I can have two, those feel almost identical inside.
Who else?
Yeah.
I said similar. I mean, my children were the top of my list. And then as I wrote my list, I ended up putting on top of that the self that I'm, you know, the big S self, you know, that part of me, and that same kind of thing that Diane was sharing, you know, that freedom that I'm getting, you know, for that. And it's like, you know, so those questions kind of threw me. Did you know, do they serve it? Do they have it? Is there any profit in it? Because, you know, the profit is the experience, it's the outpicturing, you know, in a way, of what's happening, you know. Because all the other things kind of
Ask about that. Who's going to profit from that work? It's going to annihilate Janet.
Yeah. And you know,
There's absolutely no profit in working on your God consciousness.
Yeah.
There certainly is some nice outpicturing that happens, but
Yeah.
ultimately, and I'll claim that if you're working on your God consciousness in order to include your living situation, then you don't love that. That's a well invested time, and it's a salary job.
No, but that's not the.
That's how the distinction works. You see?
Yeah.
If you're trying to improve your humanhood, then you're just making an investment. That's just an investment.
Yeah.
Got nothing to do with love.
And that self-inquiry thing is work, because it is. I never realized that. You know, I used to read a lot of the Buddhism. I could never get, you know, the annihilation. But, you know, the self-inquiry going back.
And annihilation is sort of a tough word.
But that's why I could never like, well, but what happens to me?
But how about dissolution? What happens to when you go over the hill and look down on the desert and there's all that water on the road, okay, and you keep driving, what happens to the water?
Disappears and it continues to go on ahead of you.
Does the water disappear?
There's no water.
There you go. That's the way in which you will disappear. There's no you to begin with, is the point. Who else has a list? Yes?
God, sobriety, and myself, probably the top three.
And how do you serve God?
How do I serve God? By trying to do His will.
Is that serving God or serving yourself?
I think it's serving God.
Do you think God needs your help?
No, maybe not.
Can you serve God?
Yeah. I think you can. I think coming here does that. I think raising your consciousness and hanging out with other people who do that is doing that.
Well, it certainly serves ourselves, and it certainly serves all of the people around us.
Depends on what your concept of God is.
Right.
Certainly does.
Because Jesus kind of said, for all those that you do unto, you have done for me, which is helping others.
Yeah, there's a lot of concepts of God that go along with serving.
So what was the other ones now?
Sobriety and myself.
Well, you do serve sobriety by staying sober and going to meetings. Now, which self do you love?
I found you in Hawaii.
Oh, I don't know, Lee. Probably both. Probably the little self and the big self, probably.
Well, if you love the little self, then you can't know the big self at all. That's something to look at. That would be a... I mean, if you think you love yourself, then that would be a good attachment and source of human alcoholism. That's keeping you here. Even thinking that I'm good, or thinking that I'm serving mankind, or thinking that I'm serving God and loving myself for that, is keeping me pinned in the 3D world.
But isn't that while we're all still here and so anxious to be here and listen? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is everything that I seem to do is for some kind of return. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any honesty in saying I love my big eye because to
love it, right?
Well, yeah. I mean that plus.
Yeah, if you say I love my big eye, I'm going to say, who loves your big eye?
Right.
Your little eye? That's a attachment.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
I agree with you.
I listen to you enough to understand that, but I also don't feel like I'm above that.
No, almost nobody is.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting confused about.
Well, we're talking about, nobody's expecting these lists to be empty. We're becoming aware of the problem. And
I just expect them to be more chocolate, sex, golf, stuff like that, other than the big eye and all these other things that I can't. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, typically you would think that those things are the things we think we love.
Although we know the difference.
Yeah, but it's interesting that we're also getting the yardstick of the level of consciousness here. It's interesting to see where people went with this list, because you could have gone straight to, sex and mother love and kids.
I find it interesting because the secret the secret was given away of, write down love, what you love, hate, fear, and desire, because those are, and then the secret was given away. But I wonder what the dynamic would be in a class where you just said, write down everything you love and then come back, and I think the list would be different.
Yeah.
Because I haven't heard money yet, and I know it's on mine. And there you go. And that's, Jesus says you cannot serve two masters. And he's talking about money when he said that. And then it says, did I serve it? And the way that I serve money is my desire in my head, well, I'll buy the mega $1 million ticket for $1, and then I'll just think about it for the next 3 days. And that's how I'm serving money rather than being human conscious.
That doesn't serve money.
Well, when Jesus says you cannot serve two masters.
But I mean, you can't serve money, and money doesn't get served by that.
But that's not the context I'm using it in. I'm using it as the way that to be of service to God and to be of service to money is where I'm thinking of money more than I'm thinking of God. That's the way I have the context.
That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about being a serving something. You can't serve money in the sense that we're using the word. What did you have, Mary Ann?
Oh, no, I was just going to respond to what Sean said, because Andrew and I were talking about our list today, and I said I only have 2 things on my list. But I wonder, I knew about the Barbara list, and I wonder if it would have been different, to Sean's point, if I didn't have a sense of that, because I'm aware, the 2 on my list are Liam and Eddie, because I'm aware of my attachment, how my feelings about them, I'm attached to it. And I'm attached to my humanhood based on my relationship to them. And other things I enjoy, I became aware of that.
Do you see a payoff in those 2 for you?
In the relationships?
In Eddie and Liam. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an attachment, no?
Yeah. There will be more on my desire list.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of interesting as I was going through the exercise, because
people know what love means too well.
Well, that's why I was responding to Sean's thing, because when Andrew and I were talking, because Andrew, was great, and he was like, all right, I got a million things, and I was like, I've only got 2, my spiritual list of 2. But I kind of knew where I was going with that, but I got that sense of it, you know what I mean? And, but it was really interesting to me, having gone through this, and the experience I had last night with Liam, because I had a conversation with Lee not that long ago. We were talking about death. I forget, it came up in class, I think in script class, about emotion in response to someone dying. And Lee and I were talking one day, and I said, it was interesting because I was at the beach with Liam, and he made some comment to me about, can I drown? And it caused me to kind of think about what if Liam ever did drown, and I was like, you know what? I would be okay. Like, obviously, not that I wouldn't be really sad and have feelings, but I wouldn't be happy, but I would know he was okay, you know what I mean, in a very deep way. So last night, Liam was lost for an hour and 15 minutes. And for a long period of time during that, I was okay. And at one point, I realized I was getting not okay. And I called Lee to get okay. And on the call, I was like, hi, Lee. I'm in meditation. And I was like, okay, there's the attachment. I think I found the attachment to my humanhood, So it was interesting, because there are times, it can depend on where I am, my understanding of my attachment or not, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
And if we look into all those things that we honestly love, we'll find an attachment there too, if we're honest with ourselves. Something there somewhere.
That's what I was trying to...
I loved when I don't know if it was you, I told somebody, I think it was you, I told you about Barbara and her cat. Barbara had a sick cat, and she called Joel for help with the cat. And apparently the cat continued to be sick. And so she called him again a couple of days later, and she says, the cat's still sick, Joel. And Joel says, do you really think it matters whether that cat is on this side of the bed or the other? And she says, and I picked up the phone and said directly, yes! And by the way, I found out the result. The cat died. But here's Barbara working with Joel, and the honest answer is yes. Matters to me. If it doesn't matter to the cat, I'm real clear about the fact that it doesn't matter to the cat whether it's on the side or the other, but it matters to me.
And Eddie was funny because he's like, God, you're really a spiritual adult. But he wasn't in the car with me when I called you. Very funny.
I get very attached to a chair, and I sit in the same chair in the meetings, and I'm a very loving, meditative person. And when I was doing all the meditations here, I came up here and someone was sitting in that chair, and my whole body just tightened up. And I mean, that is like everything that you could put on this list.
Well, that's script.
I understand that script. But I thought we were talking about humanhood.
We're talking about our love list.
We're talking about being attached to something. I love sitting in my fucking chair.
Kind of worries me because this is the Terry.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that, but it's even in like meetings or I was at a agape one time and just I kind of when I sat down, there's a guy behind me and I looked and I was like, oh, maybe I'll scoot over. And I asked him, hey, are you going to be sitting there all the time? Because I like to sit in this chair. And he goes, well, I'm not attached to a chair. And which was a script event for me. And I thought, well, I am attached to a chair.
Okay, yeah.
Who else? I can ask a question. So I was hearing what Marianne was saying about Liam, and I don't feel like I feel that way when I'm thinking about my voice. It's just a different feeling. When you said, because this is what I said with me, the first time that you sat with Rashneesh with Osho, you felt this overwhelming love. It just came over you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an attachment there? I mean, that's what I feel when I think of my children. It feels like that. At least what you said it was.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference?
I don't know if there is a difference. There's certainly no attachment to Rajneesh in that moment.
In that moment. I'm just curious.
But, if your kids moved away, you'll discover you're attached to them, is what I'm saying.
To their presence, not them. But do you know what I mean? But anyway, I understand what you mean. But you know what? In my life, I have always struggled with that word. To me, you and I have even spoken about it. I hear people in a meeting go, "I love everyone in the room." It makes me want to vomit. I mean, I've never felt that way. It just doesn't feel like it matches what that word should be. What it feels like it matches what that word should be is when you said, when I looked in his eyes, I felt love, and the way I feel when I had my first child. So to me, it's just, I guess, like Joanne was saying about concepts of what you think God is, I guess it's very conceptual what you think the word love is, or what love feels.
Well, it is for most people, but that's what we're trying to get clear.
Right.
I want you to see what I want to do is, most people have long lists of things they love, and and the fact is that most of those are not things they serve. They're fantasies. They're things they never had. They're things that they don't love in any sense of service or anything like that. Certainly, the people in meetings, when they say love, most people when they say love are talking about human love, and they're talking about the little I. Okay, but the reality is that the little I can't love, doesn't love. It can be very attached to. But love is from God through people that are clear enough to let it come through. And
That's the difference.
But they don't know that in AA meetings or any meetings. Most people, human people, most people have love and lust seriously confused. You know, I mean, most people when they fall in love are really in heat.
Okay, Bill. Yeah, I did, that was when you said the two things about I that really cleared that for me.
Yeah, so I mean, we're jumping off here. The I that loves and has nothing to do with tonight's topic.
Okay.
We're talking about where am I, little I, attached to my humanhood. Okay. And you'll want to take all your lists. We're not nearly done, but you'll want to take all your lists and look at them, and and recognize what that feeling is. Because it's certainly not love. But it's deep attachment. Let me get to Andrew first, and I'll get back to you.
And you're hearing, Diane, in that last interchange, the things that I've heard that really sound like love, and the things on my list that really sound like love are what keeps me in flow of God's energy. That's how I always define my personal definition of God anyway, but that is getting reinforced here. And I mean, I have one on my list that I hasn't come up yet. I'm sure other people have this one as well, though. And it was mentoring/sponsoring, mentoring in work and sponsoring in program. That's something I think that fits the definition, and I think it's a pretty common one, probably. But it's something where that keeps me in the flow of God. I love that. I grew from liking my job to loving it when I started to mentor people at work, and a bunch of people, and it made me incredibly happy.
Sure. Yeah. Sponsoring is certainly a source of joy, a source of love, because it's pure service. There's no return from sponsoring at all, except the feeling of joy, which is pure God. And
my disease got something from sponsoring in the beginning because I used to try to control
the freedom to stay sober, yeah.
So when I let that go, I really found the meaning of sponsorship.
Sure. You have,
Well, just there's this category of things like sleep that, it's sort of like a reflexive or necessary part of the human, having a human body, and I like it. I mean, is that, obviously you can't serve it.
yeah, that's not love.
I would just a thing I enjoy.
I always say I love to sleep, but that's not what love means. I mean, there's so many different uses of the word love in humanhood. But
So the purpose of those three questions is to help us clarify,
to find out whether you love it or not,
to find out whether you love it.
whether in fact you really love it.
So he loves sponsoring. Does it serve? He really has it. He profits from it.
He doesn't profit from it.
The little I.
Indirectly, there's a profit there. He gets to stay sober, abstinent.
But can the little I enjoy the return, the big I?
Oh, sure, yeah.
For example, kids. I mean, I don't have kids yet, but I understand that parents love their children unconditionally, but I would imagine the return is immense. And that there would be, although there would be an attachment to that return.
Some parents, very few actually, love their children unconditionally. Most of them see them as an extension of themselves and they want their kids to go out there so that they can feel good and stuff like that, and it's not love at all. But yeah, there are parents that love unconditionally. Certainly there's enjoyment. I mean, we're not talking about enjoyment. We enjoy lots of things. We enjoy sunsets. We enjoy sitting in our own chair. We enjoy lots of things. I enjoy this house. But if it was taken away from me tomorrow, it wouldn't matter. You enjoy it. When it washes up on the shore, you enjoy it until it washes back out. There's no attachment. I don't have any attachment to this house. I certainly enjoy living here. I can't imagine any place I'd rather live. It's just fine for what I'm doing, but I'm not attached to it.
So I feel a little confused, Emily, because I feel like what I was saying before, like in relation to land, right? Mm-hmm. What I was interpreting was similar to what Brooks was just saying, which is the profit or gain would be the feeling that I get from
the love that I have for him. Is that different than, I feel like I confuse myself.
Like Diana with her art, I'm sure that's a God script and that's the big I creating, but I would imagine there's a huge joy or love of that.
Yeah, we take pleasure. I mean, certainly, as long as we're wearing bodies, we're going to take pleasure. But,
That's why I said I couldn't think of anything that I could.
Well, let's look at painting and teaching. Okay? Now, she takes joy in painting, not in the painting she produces. And she takes joy in teaching. She takes joy in the activity. She loves doing that.
No matter what the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if she's invested in the outcome to that extent, she's impinging on her love.
So I can't truly
So
say.
she's serving, it's the old thing, like, you get to serve it, but you don't get to predict the results. You don't get to get attached to the results.
Well, just related to what, the moms are saying, what I wrote down, what I would put in one of my three is not necessarily Aiden, but what I love is the experience of mothering, which is more the action of the love flow rather than, so it's a doing.
Yeah, you love loving him.
Exactly, sure, that experience.
Yeah. When you feel love flowing through you, it's wonderful.
Yet that's still an attachment.
Yeah, that's a feeling. Now, if you cling to it and try to repeat the same activity over and over again to cause that to happen again, then you're clinging to it and you're blocking it.
No, it feels far more like what Diana was saying. It's like, I was meant to do this.
Right.
I
trust that completely, and I think that's love. Sure, absolutely. And you may well enjoy it. I certainly, I have felt an incredible amount of love 3 or 4 times in my life, and it's an awesome feeling, and I certainly loved it. I certainly. That was wonderful. And, but there was nothing to cling to because the one who had that experience can't cling. Okay? There was no lead there. If there had been a lead there, the experience wouldn't have been that awesome. All right? I was annihilated, and here was the feeling. One time, it woke me out of a sound sleep, and there was a lead there. That time, it was still an awesome feeling. But he couldn't cling, nothing to cling to. There it was, you lay in it. And then when it wanders away, I had this amazing feeling that overwhelmed with love. And, for, I don't know how long it was, because there was no real time, but eventually it started dwindling and dwindling and dwindling, and then it finally was down to nothing, and my reaction was not to go try to get more, my reaction was, wow. Yeah. And I rolled over and went back to sleep. I had no idea what it was or what had caused it, but there it was. I do now know what it was, but I didn't at the time. Somebody had a hand at you.
I lost my train of thought, but it's being in that experience, which, I thought about the painting too, and doing that creative process. For me, it's getting lost in say, with the painting, but I don't love the painting. I don't love the finished painting. There's nothing to do with, that's, I made my list got kind of silly actually, because it was a lot of experiences. Like I love the scuba dive, but I don't love the tank. I love the experience that I had. It was almost meditative before I started meditating. I love that feeling of being, weightless, and I was actually surprised at myself that there's no fear, and so that, that's an experience. But at the same time, isn't that finding that place, that zone, in a way. Is that not God coming through us in a way? You know, right there when you
Sure,
find
when
that
you're-
sweet spot, you know?
When you're in the
it's
zone, sure, I think that's God. Sure. I scuba dive too, and it's the same thing, you know. But I'm not scuba diving.
Right, right. So we don't sit around just loving scuba diving, right?
And I'm not down there actively, you know, I mean, when I'm in the zone, there's no, Lee is not scuba diving. When I'm in the zone, it's happening. The same thing in sports. When these athletes are in the zone, it's because there's no conscious thought happening, you know. They're so highly trained that they're doing all the right stuff, that they know how to do all the right stuff, and they know how to do it instinctively, and they know how to do it reflexively. And when they finally get their head out of the way, which is slowing them down and confusing the issue, they're suddenly in the zone. I had that happen once bowling. I bowled a 245 one day, and it was many, many years ago, and it was after, it was at lunch, and I had maybe just one or two drinks. You know, so the pressure was off, you know, about, I was nervous about how good I'm going to do. And I bowled a 245, and my previous best game and my successive best game is 199. So, I mean, that was a zone, you know, and it just felt like it. I mean, I just knew it was going to be a strike every time, you know, it felt perfect. The next game was 108 or something like that because I had another cocktail and crossed the line, you know. Yeah, but there was, you know, when you're not thinking, there's no you.
Lee, I have a question.
Yeah. Speak up. Speak it. Say it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. Speak up.
Back to loving God and whether or not one can serve God.
Uh-huh.
Is just being who you're supposed to be, you know, letting whatever it is that was created just come through, would that be serving?
Well, I asked the same question. Who would be serving God?
The one through whom the channel goes.
And is that not God?
Yeah.
So yeah, God can serve himself, I assume. You know, God doesn't need serving. God is outside of time. The whole thing breaks down completely when you talk about serving God, really.
Yeah.
If you're talking about God in the sense that we've been using the word, if you're talking about what is, you know, doesn't need serving.
Yeah.
What is just is, and it's done.
That's a lot.
But insofar as we are in humanhood and doing in these bodies and playing this game and such like, then the way we can tell that we're loving something is by the characteristics are that we're serving it and not getting any compensation for, you know, not getting anything from it. And it's got to be a reality rather than a fantasy. You know, those things seem to pretty well help us make our list separate.
Thank you.
I started out writing things that were like the opposite of my script, like being loved, feeling important, feeling valued, feeling taken care of, etc. And then I got down to what I really love is freedom. And then I put non-reaction.
Mm-hmm. So the ones about the opposite side of your scripts, do those happen to you? See, that's the question. That would be the question about that. In your case, where you're getting script free, see, most people would immediately do exactly what you talked about doing, and put down on their list everything that would be the opposite of the script. You know, I mean, I love being appreciated and accepted. I love being heard. I love being listened to. I love being this. You know, and the question, of course, is, does it ever happen? And if you're in script, it doesn't. To the extent that you're script free. See, if you're totally script free and totally kid free, your lists are empty.
Yeah.
Okay? It's the same word. This is just a backdoor approach, but it's the same word. You know, if you're script free and kid free, your lists are empty. Or you can go, and this is the third leg of the stool that we're doing on the Monday nights, but and you can do these if you get rid of all your loves, hates, fears, and desires, you will become script-free. Right? So if you work on your list and get them to 0, that will eliminate your scripts. Because you can't have a fear list with nothing on it and have script. Or kid. Because kids and scripts are fear. So it's all intimately tied together. But yeah, those are... So what you're saying is, I love it when my script isn't being read.
I love being in non-reaction.
Yes, for sure. That's spiritual adult. It's one of the characteristics of spiritual adult. You love being a spiritual adult. Sure, we all do. Because it's not us, see. That's not the I we're talking about.
And what about this saying, like, the spiritual journey or the spiritual practice?
Sure. That's God's script. Sure. And and I said you don't have to give up anything you really love. I'm just looking at these lists to see which are loves and which are attachments.
And also, there's a wide variation of what the concept of the word love is. What do you mean by love?
Yeah, well, I define, when I say you get to keep the things you love, I define what I mean by love. I mean God's love pouring through you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything else has to go. Everything else, every other case where you use the word love, you probably mean attached to. That's the point. Yes.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, how do I word this? I'm kind of into the kid word right now. I know this is different than the kid script. This is, like you said, going in the back door. But I just wanted some clarification about, you said, it's an attachment to love yourself. I'm in the process of, trying to love that kid. So I'm just feeling kind of uneasy.
Okay, that would be the spiritual adult. The spiritual adult is the one that would love the kid, right? Yeah, that's the same thing as loving a real child. Spiritual adult and God are synonymous. So that's God love. You get to keep that one.
An hour ago.
I did.
I know, but I need to hear those words, I guess.
Yeah, that's spiritual adult. Loving the kid and integrating the kid. That is the spiritual path. That's the spiritual path. Yeah.
So what I learned from this, and I'm assuming this is the teaching, is what I thought love was is really attachment.
Often.
And so what I wrote down, because I wrote family, just basically, her and the other her, and then my immediate family and money and God. And so it's going to open my eyes to that love is not really what that I need to release. It's the attachment, the love attachment, or whatever the word, just the attachment.
Yeah, and then, that is the basic point. But also find out if those things which you are attached to are serving you.
That's kind of like the Byron Katie question, right? What's the benefit for hanging on to this?
Yeah.
And what's the price what would I have if I let go of this?
Yeah. Find out if that's serving you. We'll get
Peace.
How long do you want to hang on to it?
Yeah, if you let go of all this stuff.
You mean serving you in the sense of a payoff?
The thing to do now that we've gotten rid of now that we've identified the things that we're attached to, we need to look at that attachment. Because those have to go, and the question is are those things providing, you're attached to it for a reason. Does it provide that for you?
I'm really, just enjoying the devil now on, and I've learned about being loving her.
Oh.
Well, put us on mute for God's
Go ahead.
And you can enjoy her on the conference. You can enjoy her on the conference call, but no loving, please.
Yeah.
You got it.
What's that question again? They test it for a reason. Is it working? What was the question?
Yeah, you know, is it giving you
Right.
what you think it was? Is it fulfilling the reason, the needs, or the reason you think you're attached to it? Like if you're attached to security and you've never been secure, that would be a good one to drop off your list because you spend an awful lot of time being run by your attachment to security and you've never had it. So the question is, have you ever really had these things? Are they real? Are they fantasies? You know, I'm just trying to give you handles into crossing things off this list. And the first thing is to see what they really are. Okay?
What do you mean when you say that I served it?
Did you give yourself to it with no expectation to get rewards, like you do when you work with newcomers? You serve them. Are you giving time, or are you giving money, or are you giving energy, or are you giving experience, and are you giving something that serves them without any recompense?
Because when you say security, you can't really search security or freedom, but you have it.
No, and I'm saying that love and security is not love in the sense that we're talking about. Love and security is an attachment to something you never had. Because nobody ever had security. There's only the illusion of security. Nobody ever had security. If that cat knew that it didn't matter which side of the veil it was on, it was totally secure. I like that cat. Let's get quiet. That's enough. Oh, let's next week do hate, fear, and desire.
All three?
Yeah, do all three. I don't think hate's going to take us very long at all, and I don't think fear's going to take us very long at all. So let's do all three of those lists, and we'll see where we get on them. And it's okay for the same thing to be on all four lists. Especially in the case of a she or he. Unrequited love leads directly into hatred. It has nothing to do with your desire and may bring fear. Let's get quiet. I'd love feedback from you during the week as to whether this is useful or constructive or anything like that. Feel free to attempt to influence.
Last thing,
What?
I'm so happy I got to do this!
And Wade, she just has to go to Hawaii every minute.
Yeah, quit trying to call from, we're done from Taurus, call from Hawaii. It's a lot easier. Notice that you've made it stop.
Yes, I did notice.
Good. All right, let's get quiet for a second. Okay, cool. Thanks for coming. I love y'all.